Am I the a-hole for telling my ex and his wife that she was the one who was nobody special or important after all? My ex and I broke up 20 years ago when our kids were 3 and 1. The reason was that he made a financially reckless decision, buying a very fancy car that we could not afford, which he took out debt to buy. It put the financial security of our family at risk without telling me. And then he blew up at me for not supporting his decision and wanting him to sell it and pay off the money he borrowed to get it. He told me a real wife would have supported him and screw me for wanting to take away something so special. After our divorce, he had to sell the car anyway, and he blamed me for it. He was nasty to me in every conversation after that, as long as our kids weren't present. He remarried about 2 years after our divorce. He and his wife told me she was the kids' new mom, and that she would be just as important, if not more so than me. More than once they told me I was nobody special or important, and that the kids would have a much better relationship with the new wife. I had to bite my tongue around the kids whenever my ex's wife would be all over them. I hated the two of them. This stuff was never said or done in front of our kids. I would walk away, but they carried on speaking, and they'd approach me anywhere at any time, as long as the kids weren't there, to try and claim that I was going to lose my kids to them. The kids ended up hating her and their dad after a while though, and I was never very sad about that. I think they were always going to have to dislike or pull away from me or him, because my ex and his wife would never have accepted both. They always believed she would come out on top over me and would be the favorite mom, and that I would be called my kids' birth mother. When the kids were in their mid-teens, they asked a judge to let them live with me full-time, and that was granted. They had calls and some non-overnight visitation with their dad that they hated, and now both of them are in college and in their 20s, and they have been no contact with both for a couple of years now. I was recently at the opening of a new restaurant in town when my ex and his wife confronted me over the state of their relationship with the kids. Before they could get too nasty with me again, I smiled and told them that it was not my fault they destroyed their relationship with the kids, and they were wrong about the outcome. Then, I decided to be a little petty and gloated that I guess she was the one who was nobody special or important after all, because the kids certainly never called her their mom. I know what I said was petty and that it was rubbing it in. Maybe it makes me as bad as them, or maybe not. But it felt good after years of putting up with so much from them. Does it make me the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You did the right thing by not engaging as the kids grew up. That's probably a part of why you have the relationship with them and their dad doesn't. Kids hear and learn a lot from what is said and what isn't. Now that they're adults, you can speak your mind. In this case, all you said was the truth. If they don't like it, they'll have to learn to deal with it. It was difficult, and I understand why some parents slip or can't do it. My biggest concern was how much it would impact my kids, and it kept me going even when I wanted to scream at the two of them. Not the a-hole. You bit your tongue for 20 years, while they took every cheap shot they could. You had every right to throw it back in their faces. They deserve a lot worse. Plus, kids can be very observant. I guarantee they knew something was off with their father and new wife, and the animosity they had towards you. This probably added to the resentment and subsequent no contact they both have with their father and her. Hope you were able to rebuild a happy life for yourself. They did. At his house, I would be brought up, although never directly in front of my kids. My kids still heard it, because kids will listen in. And I did. This isn't the life I expected, but it's no less fulfilling. My husband left after 7 years of marriage when I got pregnant with a child we were trying to have. He did not even want custody. I never said a bad word about the man to my child, and it got to the point that in the family therapy I took him to, they told me it was hurting him by not agreeing with him in his negative feelings about his dad, because it felt like I wasn't agreeing with his valid and true observations, and the sadnesses he was experiencing because of his abusive butt. So we did our best to turn my ex into a joke, and laugh about what we can, and console each other for what we can't. I taught parenting and always told parents, you don't need to talk bad about the ex. Children are so much smarter and more emotionally intelligent than we give them credit for. They see it. They know it. There is no hiding from them, and they need to be able to express their feelings safely at all times. Both our husbands did this to themselves. How very tragic for them to not get to love our wonderful kids. Next story. Would I be the a-hole for remarrying my ex, even though I'm going to die? I know this post is morbid and dark, so I apologize for that. I, 36 female, am close to dying. I have terminal cancer and I only have about a year or two left. I've accepted and made my peace with it, and I don't mind openly talking about it. I also have a less than common relationship. My current partner and boyfriend, 38 male, is also my ex-husband. Me and him married right out of high school, stayed together through college, had 3 kids together, 12 male, 11 female, and 4 male. We divorced when our daughter was 3 because of his intense work schedule. It was a lot of heartbreak and pain, but at the time it felt right for both of us, despite that. 2 years after the divorce, I was first diagnosed with cancer, and he reduced his work hours so he could take more time with the kids. And it slowly shifted to him also taking care of me, and we rekindled our romance, but didn't get remarried. I got lucky the first time around and was declared cancer-free at 31. I had my youngest child at 32 and was re-diagnosed at 34. We tried treatments, but it's been recently declared terminal. Please don't feel sorry for me or throw me a pity party. I've gotten to live the life I wanted, and I'm okay with the fact that I'll most likely die before 40. The only thing that causes me any emotional pain is that I won't see my kids grow up and experience life milestones, like graduating, getting married, and having kids. Long backstory, but here's the problem. My partner and I have discussed it, and we want to remarry each other. I want him to be listed as my husband in my obituary. I want him to be able to make medical decisions in case I'm unable to. This one is big for me because of my situation, and so that he can get survivor benefits when I pass. My sister, 38 female, says that it's cruel to remarry him knowing I'm going to die soon, and that if I loved him, I wouldn't have divorced him in the first place, and that by remarrying him, I'm disrespecting the sanctity of marriage by doing it willy-nilly. She also said I probably used my diagnosis the first time around to get his pity love, so he'd get back with me since it resolved the main issue from our divorce. So Reddit, I was wondering if it's really bad for me to remarry my ex? I love this man. We both regretted our divorce and are so grateful that life brought us back together. But now that I'm close to death, we want our love to be legally recognized. If your ex is all in on this, what business is it for your sister to get involved? Exactly. If he's choosing this with full heart, then her sister really has no say. It's their relationship, their choice. And honestly, it sounds like love that's been through hell and back. Not the a-hole. You both are going into this knowing what is happening. I am so sorry. I wish you peace and comfort, and much love from your family and friends. Thank you. That means a lot. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that he isn't in charge in the ER? My husband is still really mad at me for this, and it's been a few days, so I figured I'd bring it here and see what other people have to say. A few days ago, I, female 23, broke my foot by tripping over a really big tree root while gardening. I knew I had broken something when it happened, but I hobbled back inside. I could barely put even a little bit of weight on it, so my husband, 33 male, took me to the ER. For context, my husband isn't the most patient person in the world, and he's kind of nervous around hospitals and doctors, though he'd never admit that. When I was pregnant, he would get nervous just being in the office, and they'd tease him about the feelings of a new dad. But it was really just white coat syndrome, LOL. Anyway, when we were in the ER, he was being expectedly impatient and pacing around. We waited around an hour before I got called back. By then, he was really straining to still be polite. He wasn't rude or anything, but he was just very short with the nurses and other people and didn't say much. When they asked me about my pregnancy status, he interrupted me because of how recently I was pregnant. A couple of minutes later, the nurse asked him to leave. At first he was like, "Why?" And she just said it's standard for a few questions, because they have to give me privacy. He said, "We're married. We don't have or need privacy from each other." She was trying to be really nice and was just like, "It's just standard, sorry." But he wouldn't go until she was like, "I'll literally have to call security if you don't willingly go for like 5 minutes." I eventually said, "You're not in charge in this ER, please go." He was livid, I could tell, but he did go and she asked me really strange questions about my living situation. Everything was fine, and she let him back in. They gave me x-rays and a boot, and we left. Well, my husband was very upset about how the hospital treated us, making us wait and separating a married couple. I know he just hated being there in the first place, and the fact that I said what I said. He hasn't downright said it to me, but he's been so passive-aggressive about being in charge. Generally, I feel like I really do try my best to keep the peace, but I really didn't want security called or anything insane to happen while I was just trying to see if I broke my foot or not. Am I the a-hole for that? He said we are married. We don't have or need privacy from each other. He's been so passive-aggressive about being in charge. I feel like I really do try my best to keep the peace. I really didn't want security called. They believe that you're in an abusive relationship and you don't recognize that you might be. Yes, his past trauma, or whatever it is that makes him nervous about hospitals, is something he needs to work through, possibly with professional help. OP, the fact that he blames you, the nurse, everyone else, that's not good. When you say he's not the most patient person in the world, does that mean he gets angry regularly over small issues? Or angry regularly at anything? Do you feel you have to placate him when this happens? Does it make you nervous? If so, this is a form of abuse, specifically emotional abuse. I'm not saying your husband is a bad person, but he may well be someone who uses others to emotionally regulate himself, and that's not fair, and may well become worse when you add children into his life. You are not the a-hole. I am worried about you, though. If you think he'd be open to individual therapy, suggest it. Otherwise, start noticing just how often his anger has an impact on you, and if it happens often enough for you to notice, ask yourself if this is the way you and your child want to live. My dad was fairly terrified of hospitals due to some bad childhood experiences as a kid, but if he needed to be there for us, he was there, and he didn't act like a prick. OP's husband is a walking red flag. Your husband gave off the signs of an abuser. The pacing, the irritation, the rudeness, not letting you answer for yourself and refusing to leaving the room are all signs of DV. I think you should really sit with the fact that trained professionals were concerned because of the red flag behavior your husband was exhibiting. You seem to let this roll off nonchalantly and make excuses for him. But you should be thinking about it more. We married. We don't need privacy. Do you see how controlling this is? This is not white coat syndrome. This was a temper tantrum that made the nurse nervous enough to threaten involving the hospital's security. Then he got mad at you. Instead of being apologetic, he blamed you and engaged in passive-aggressive behavior. This man is either extremely immature or he's unable to control his temper. It's probably a combination of both. You need to speak to a therapist. Everything is not okay, and this isn't nervous behavior. Yeah, the "we're married, no privacy" comment really gave me chills too. That's not love, that's control dressed up as concern. Nurses don't threaten security unless the vibes are seriously off. This wasn't just nerves. I hope OP really takes a step back and reflects on how normalized this all sounds to her. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law I'm no longer helping them with their kids? I, 24 female, have an older brother, 33 male, and his wife, 32 female, who I'll call John and Jill. Jill has an 8-year-old from a one-night stand, and 2 kids with my brother, Liam, 3 male, and Beth, 7-month female. So John decided to start his own business after working as a mechanic for years, and most of the time quitting before having another job lined up, and Jill is now a stay-at-home mom with a part-time 2-day-a-week at a bar. Before their 1 year together, Jill told me that she stopped taking birth control without telling my brother because she was ready for his kids and ended up pregnant with Liam. They lived in a tiny studio-type house with 2 bedrooms and ended up moving into our other brother's house to get more room. To give some background, John has not kept a job longer than a year because of bullying, and Jill just seems to think she's the best out there, but was constantly on her phone and just drama. They are renting from our brother Bill, 34 male, and are at least 3 months behind on rent, has been using Bill's truck and not paying either the monthly or the insurance on it, and just expecting everyone to help them. They even started talking about moving out of state, even though they need a whole team of family to make it work. John is also the type of dad that will leave the kids with other people to do his own thing, and acts like he is being bullied for asking him to actually watch his own kids. They now have Beth and decided to surprise everyone that they are pregnant. I'll be honest, when she told me, I looked her and John in the eye and said, "Are you serious? Is this a joke?" They both said no, that they were pregnant again. I immediately got irritated and told them that I wasn't going to have this conversation with them, and Jill ended up getting upset and going to cry in their car. John refuses to get a vasectomy, Jill doesn't want to get her tubes tied, and they don't like the feel of condoms, so they literally just make a wish that they don't end up with a kid. When Beth was born, they asked me to help out of everyone because, and in John's own words, "You are the only one who doesn't have any responsibilities and can drop everything to help when we need it. Just because I'm single and living at home with my parents doesn't mean I have to help. I pay rent, I have a full-time job, and I have bills just like everyone else this day and age. To be honest, I don't really like kids, and pretty sure that I won't have any of my own. If I wanted to take care of kids at all times for free, I would just find me a dude and have my own." I ended telling them that I can't help anymore. I have bills of my own, and not to text or call me to ask if I can call off work to watch their kids, or give them money, or buy diapers because they can't afford any until that Friday. I never see my money back, and I get stressed out when I get left at their house with the 3 kids until almost 8 p.m. without payment. Edit: John is making enough to skate by monthly with his business, but isn't making enough to pay off debts. He usually works 2 to 4 days a week depending on the weather, since he works outside in landscaping and usually doesn't come home until around 6 to 7 on the days. Jill doesn't work. Not the a-hole. Instead of giving them money or your time, save up to move out or start the process of getting a new higher-paying career. Focus on yourself and your own work-life balance. You probably want to move out soon. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm betting soon they will need to move in with your parents, just for a couple of weeks. We are renovating our house and I'm taking the attic. I'm paying for my area and monthly rent. I told my mom that if she lets them in, then I'm moving out and not coming back. They will never leave.